you don't know, or Laura for short. And today, the title of this live is The End of Karmic Cycles. And I've really been in a space of analysing my relationships, but not just the relationships themselves. I think it's my approach to them in terms of my way of being and how I form relationships and of what strengths and all of those things. And so I had to look at where my relationship patterns started. I'm gonna be clipping on my pressing nails, my press-ons at the same time. But I had to look at the foundation of how I started forming relationships. Will obviously be with my primary caretakers. So that being my mother and my father. Now, I didn't ever have I've always had both of them in my life, but never, I guess, kind of at the same time. But it was both always at different stages of their life. Anyway, the way in which I've separated this topic of conversation, because it's huge, I want to be on here all day, talking for hours, doing some kind of therapy session. So I've kind of divided it into my relationship with the men in my life, starting with my dad, and then how I approached that. And then the relationship with the women in my life, or the girls. And how that started and how I approached them. So we'll start with the masculine. And oh, I guess before I speak about that, I'm gonna give a little bit of insight into how I got here. So my parents were young, obviously first generation. I don't even know how that stuff works. They were born in Sierra Leone and Nigeria, but they came over here quite young. So my mum came when she was 4, and my dad came when he was 13. I believe he went back and then he came back again. And then yeah, they met at a party when my mum was 16, my dad was 18, dated for a couple months, and then my mum got pregnant. And as far as I'm concerned, in my head, it was a love child in the sense of like they actually liked each other and it was off of attraction. But because of so many other things, they couldn't be together. Like my granddad was kind of, on my dad's side, would have been like, oh, well, you got this girl pregnant, so you need to marry her. And my mum's like, I'm not marrying him. And my mom's family would have been like, this man doesn't have anything, you can't marry him. And so I kind of get how they couldn't be together. And then yeah, I was born and I started forming my own relationships with them. So again, I'm gonna start with the masculine. And before I do this is not me here to expose my dad, because sometimes when I watch videos it just feels like that. And that's why I said I don't want this to be like a therapy session. I'm actually trying to analyze how the way in which my relationship is with him impacted the way in which I show up in other relationships. Hello everybody. And so my dad is a very charming guy. He's very funny. Like he can be the light in the room when he wants to be, because he'll make jokes and he'll lighten the mood and all of that stuff. But when he's not in the mood, it's not great in terms of nobody else can be happy around him. And I noticed that pattern from like just me and the people who I was in the house with, having to walk on eggshells around him, having to be silent. Like if he's not in the mood, we're all literally like sneaking around, whispering around the house just to make sure we don't like tick him off. And obviously that's kind of like, I respected my dad out of fear and not out of love. And that being the first, like, and the most important male relationship in my life obviously didn't set a good precedent, because now I'm showing love out of fear of being punished or being rejected or all of these things. Because the thing is with my dad as well is, if you disagree with him, it's not like okay, you see this way and I see this way. He's more of a like, you're wrong and I'm right, and so therefore you're a bad person. And so that's kind of what I got used to feeling and experiencing. And so the last thing I'd say about him is the way in which responsibility is handed to men. He very much got, in terms of he's the oldest child, but whether or not he was able to live up to that is not really, like, I hate saying things like that because I know that's where his insecurity kind of lies and comes from, and that's why I try not to take what he says to me personally, because I'm very opposite to my dad in the sense of I like to go for things, I like to set goals for myself, I like to achieve, and he doesn't like it at all. So the other day when I was at his house, I must have just said, oh, I'm running late for this thing, like there's only 2 weeks, blah blah blah, but do you know what, pressure makes diamonds. And he just started going off on one about how why should we be under pressure when the divine gave us everything we need and want, and this and that, and just making me feel bad about wanting more for myself. And so that was another that making me feel bad for wanting more for myself. He raised me in this space of gratitude, which I really appreciate, in terms of being grateful for every little thing, but also like try to program me to not want more because he didn't want to give me more, or because he didn't feel he was able to give me more. And I can understand that now that I'm older, because again, like first it was just me and him, then it was me, him, and my stepmom and her children came over. So it's like I'm not the only responsibility. And in March, when I went to see him for my birthday, he very much said that to me, in terms of like, I don't know if he saw something online that made him feel, that showed him that I felt left out, because the way in which my dad looks after his stepchildren and half children is not half his stepchildren is not even close to how he looks after me. And so at first I felt left out and I felt rejected and all of these things, and I felt like a burden because I've been raised to hear like, because of you I have to buy food instead of going to do this, because of you I had to do this and I couldn't do that. And so I took that blame on. And my dad does that a lot as well, in terms of telling me that things are my fault that are not my fault. And it's kind of it's helped me in the sense of like my personal development, because I learned to realize what is in my control and not. But then it also, like, it took a lot of work, because the things that weren't in my control I still took fault for, and that's because I was used to being blamed for them. And so yeah, that's the basis of my relationship with him. Again, I started off living with my mom, but then my mom had some mental health issues, and so I had to live with my dad, and it was kind of a back and forth until secondary school, when my dad was like, you're not doing the back and forth again, like this is the second or third time you've moved in with me, just stay here on it. And also that I didn't mess up my education, because I'd spent quite a lot of time out of school and things like that. But the reason why I started off explaining how my relationship with my dad was kind of formulated, again, in terms of loving him out of, or respecting him out of fear and not out of love, it is how I entered romantic relationships after that. And so the first guy that I ever like properly spoke to, so I had a boyfriend in like year 7. He was Polish, and he was the smartest guy in my class, but he also used to smoke cigarettes, and we was like 11 years old. So I always had like this type of, this person's very intelligent, but they're not exactly like, maybe it was an element of, but he's also cool, because at the time, deeper, I'm in year 7, I'm a nerd, but I look good, so I'm looking for someone who can meet me in my mind and in like, I guess, appearance. And so yeah, other than Greg, and then in year 11 I dated this Asian guy called Umar Riaz, and I'm like, why are you just exposing him? But I don't really care who's watching. I'm just here to speak. This is my space. But yeah, so then I dated Umar in year 11, and that was another one of the same things, where he was the smartest guy, one of the smartest guy in our year groups, and he was like really funny as well. So I kind of was like, I like you. Do you want to be my boyfriend? Well, I don't think I asked him that, but I think I just told him. Like with both of them, I've always been very, oh, I like that, I'm gonna say that I like that. And so yeah, that's kind of what happened. But then the official guy that I first started speaking to, like that actually took my my cherry, we'll say that instead of the actual word. I met him because he was in OT with, for people who don't know what that is, it's like when you go far away to sell narcotics. But he was there with someone that my friend was dating. And so we ended up, obviously, these don't use like a mobile for whatever they're doing anyway. It wasn't rude. Did my response seem offensive? I wasn't offended. But I'm good, thank you. How are you? I'm just kind of working through the lessons that I've learned from the relationships I've been in so that I can close that chapter of my life and go forward, like knowing that I can make different decisions and be different. And some people are not going to like it because they're used to me being one way, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it's about me and whether I'm happy with the relationships in my life. And so with S, did I say his name already? I don't know. I'm trying not to say their names. But the first guy, number one, yeah, we started speaking on the phone and we spoke on the phone for like a year before I actually ever went to go meet him or stuff. But within that year, we got very close. Even within the first couple of months, we didn't even know what each other looked like. So by the time I've seen what he looked like, I don't really care. He wasn't really handsome. They used to call him Pigeon. He kind of looked like a frog a little bit. But again, with me, it's not solely appearance. Like, I can't fully just like someone because of how they look. Like, I was at the studio the other day and this girl came, she walked out the building. I was like, oh, she's pretty. Then some guy was like, that was the girl I was telling you about that was very rude. I said, oh, never mind, she's not pretty. I'm like, never mind, she's not my type. Like, that's how I am. But what was I saying about S? He was very controlling. Obviously, I didn't really know that. And because he was on the road, so I gave him a level of respect that I would give to my uncles because they was in the same predicament. I know how tempered they can be. And so I kind of came into it just like, I'm going to do everything that you say out of fear. And again, it's something that was set up with my dad. So if we was having a conversation and I would say something, like express myself, and I would hear or feel that he didn't really like what I said, I would change it. And obviously that doesn't make space for me in the relationship. It caters to the other person and making sure, oh, thank you. I didn't see that you said you like my hair. Obviously, I'm like in this storytelling, but looking at it from the perspective of like, how was I like sacrificing myself and my own needs in those relationships? And so, yeah, if he wasn't impressed with something, I would kind of just be like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. And tailor it to what he would like, which obviously isn't great. And then even that relationship was messed up. So when I first went to see him, when I got there, I told him, he was already smoking. At the time, I was 16. I didn't smoke. I think I drank a couple of times before. But I have curly hair too. Is it just me or is it hard to work with and style? This is a wig that just came out the bag yesterday, so I cannot answer that. I have natural 4C hair, which is not even, it's not curly, it's coily. I wouldn't say it's hard to work with. I'd say it's different to other hair, like it's different to styling straight hair, so it may seem harder, but when you learn what works for your hair, it's perfect, don't worry. But what was I gonna say? So yeah, the first time I went to see him, I said that I didn't wanna do, and he was kind of like, nah, we're gonna do it. Because he wanted to take my virginity. So again, in that position, I'm used to, if you don't want to do what I'm doing, then you're wrong, because of the way that I've been raised in my dad's house. And so I kind of, it seems dramatic to be like, yeah, so for that reason, I was like, okay, fine. Like, I said I didn't want to do it, but you said that you do. And so I don't want to be the bad guy here. And so we did it. And then after, I went home crying. And I blocked him. And then months later, because I again had convinced myself that I was in the wrong, I started speaking to him again. And within a couple of months, he went to jail. Now, God has done this thing in my life where the guys that I knew I should have said no to, but I was a bit on the fence with, they just sent them to jail. And every single time I'm like, guys, really? And now I'm grateful for it, actually, because clearly I didn't need to be in those relationships. But That kind of happened. So yeah, the next one, he wasn't like, we weren't dating. So he lied to me a lot. The first one lied to me a lot in terms of pretending he would give me what I want so that he could have what he wanted. And that was something that I was used to, in terms of, even when I knew he was lying, I'm just kind of like, I didn't even, I didn't value my own self enough. I just wanted to be there. And that was the insecurity within myself that I thank God I do not have anymore. Because now, if the company I'm around is not like loving me, supporting me, on my wavelength, I'm just like, can somebody get them out of my space? So, yeah, we thank God for growth. But yeah, the next guy that I wanted to speak about, we wasn't ever together. It was actually like a friends with benefits thing, but I could hardly say that we was friends because he was kind of mean. Like, he I remember one time I was at his house. Oh, I went to his house, and I don't remember if it was in the middle of something or like before, but I had my afro out, and he was like, why's your hair like that? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was a bit offended because obviously I wanted him to be attracted to me, we're doing the do da da da, but he had this thing of like, what are other people gonna say? And so that's how I could say that we were friends, because we had a good vibe, we would laugh, all of that stuff. Like, he was actually jokes, I'll be honest, but because he knew I wasn't the, like, I'm not normal. Even when I look like a baddie, or like I could be an IG baddie, or the girls that they would essentially go for, like, I will say something and you'll know very quickly this girl's just calm. Like, that's why we could chill. You could say things to me that you wouldn't normally say. You can fart, and I'll just be like, get out of here, like that. So we kind of had that chill bond. But again, it was that thing of like, the, I guess, shame. And that shame I was used to as well, because my parents had me young, and so they didn't really, again, my dad's side of the family is Muslim, and certain things were expected of him, um in like the way in which his life will turn out, and having a baby out of wedlock, or whatever they call it, wasn't one of those things. And so I wasn't really shown off the way in which I'm gonna show off my children, if that makes sense. And so when it came to relationships, I didn't really care. So with this friends with benefits guy I was talking about, like, we were in, one of my friends was kind of dating one of his friends as well, so we'll go to parties together, we'll do all of that stuff, and we'll be there. But my friends will make my friend, she will, oh my god, when I get to the girls, they're so annoying. They'll make a big deal out of it. They'll be like, oh my god, look at them. They'll be putting their cameras in our faces and stuff, and I'm just like, can you chill? Because that's not even what this is. Like, we're just cool. And then it kind of puts pressure on both of us to be like, what are we doing? Because they can clearly see, like, there's a small something here, but we're not even, bearing in mind at this time I'm like 18. So I'm like, what are you doing? This is my mate. Not even my mate. Bro, me in public with guys that I'm speaking to or whatever, that's my brother. I'm like, yo, that's my nigga. Like, that's the kind of energy that I have anyway, because I'm just like, nobody don't need to know what's going on in the back room. But yeah, again, in that situation, I felt pressure to change myself because of the things that didn't fit with what he wanted to fit, essentially. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me. So, what else? Not what else. The first situationship I got into when I was at uni. So imagine I went to one of my friends' house parties. They did like a housewarming when they moved in, and sorry, I need my nail kit. 1 second. And so I went there, and I remember it was the same friend that used to put her camera in my face. She came to visit me at uni, and we went to this party, and I'm waiting for her outside. And her man goes to my uni, yeah, and her man has told me about his friend. Um, we'll say that the friend's name is Ghost. No, no, no. Actually, yeah, we'll say the friend's name is Ghost. So there's me, my best friend, her man, and then his friend Ghost. So I'm outside this party by myself, waiting for my best friend, and some guy has come up to me, and he's moving to me, and he's told me his name, and his name is Ghost. So I'm like, "Raw, are you friends with da 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 da?" As in my friend's man, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know him." Da 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 da. So I'm like, "Calm." We've started speaking. I'm like, "Oh, this guy's cute." Whatever. I think I've seen him at a couple more motives. I seen him at another motive actually, maybe like within a week's period, yeah. But this time my friend is not with me because she's gone back to London. She doesn't go to my uni. And so Tutu's, I basically found out that he's not the ghost. It's not the same ghost that we was both talking about. But he just pretended because he wanted to chat to me. So from there I should have just seen, wow, this man can lie. Just for no reason as well. Anyway, um, got into that situation. It was calm. Again, one of those things where a few people knew he was a DJ. So I remember after one motive, he's taken me to his friend's house, and I made friends with everyone, did I? I come in, I'm like, yo, hey everyone, I'm Emily. Okay, I didn't do that because I'm actually mad quiet. But I will sit there and someone will be like, you alright? Like, who is that? She's just sitting there. And that's how I'll kind of make friends. So there was a couple people in the room that I got respect for, cool. And so that's kind of how everyone found out about me and him. Because you know that when a guy brings a girl around and it's like, oh yeah, that's my thing. It was sort of like that. But I don't, we weren't actually together in it. So I can't say that he was claiming me, but people in the room will know that's who I was associated with. Long story short, so he kept borrowing money from me, which was obviously jarring me. I knew I wasn't going to give it back. Hearing stories now about other people he's borrowing money from, whether it be girls or whether it be just like other guys at uni and stuff. So I've kind of distanced myself from him. Then what happened? Oh, I started talking to someone else, and this guy's come from the ends. And it's a situation I've spoken about before. I'm not going to go into too much detail because he's not actually on the list for this discussion. But he came to see me at uni and then odd me. And then, like, on the third day when I wouldn't let him, try to beat me up. So, obviously, the first guy that I was seeing that was robbing me blind, so I had to come off, he's heard about that from one of his friends because I had to call people to get the other guy out of my house. And he's like, why did you not? Now he's trying to be a man, innit? He's like, oh, why did you not tell me? Da, 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 da. Like, I could have been there for you, all of these things. And I'm just like, mate, all the times that I've needed you to be there for me before, you haven't. All the times that you needed me there for you, though, you will call me quickly. And that, like, one-sided, okay, I'm gonna show up for you and you don't have to show up for me, is another precedent that was set up by my relationship with my dad as well. Because, like, again, my dad was young when he had me in it, so God bless his soul, but he can't process his emotions for anything. And so I kind of, from a very young age, took on the responsibility of, okay, my dad just beat the living thing out of me, yeah? And now he feels bad about it. So I'm gonna console myself for the lashing I just took, whether and it feels like it's my fault. Like I've told myself I deserve to be punished because he's obviously done it. And then I'm also gonna console him and make sure he knows that like I still love him, he's still my dad and all of those things. And so yeah, going into relationships doing that, it's not great because again, this is where you can show people, bro, you can violate and violate and violate. I'm just gonna love you anyway. And that's what I thought was good and that's what I thought was normal. And now I'm just like, Yeah. I'm just like, but yeah, that's kind of how it showed up in that relationship. And then yeah, that one had to get locked off still. But I had this thing where I would stay friends, and so later on when I did need somewhere to stay and stuff, because I wasn't living in Cov anymore, like I would go there sometimes. Um, that whole thing was just a mess. Like I would go there sometimes, but then I would hate it, or I'll have to tell him about himself. Like, can you wash your sheets? Can you do this? Can you do that? Or he would just let me down. Like I think I was supposed to stay there one time, and he just wasn't able. And then in the end, I remember he started messaging me. I think he messaged me to ask me if I wanted to do with him. And then I told one of my friends, and she was like, "What? That's my cousin's man." I was like, "Oh, sorry." I was like, "Sorry," but at the same time, I'd rather she knows than not knowing it. And then I remember I started chilling with that friend and her cousin, and he came around once, and it was mad awkward because I will like, I'm like, "Hello." Like, yes, you tried to sneak behind this girl's back and you didn't know it was gonna get back to her. Hello, hang your head in shame. But yeah, I guess that's the stronger part of me. The next person, we're gonna call him Sensei. Every time so I'm writing a book right now. It's called What Have I Done, and it's about like my life experience, especially at uni. And this guy, we're gonna call him the Sensei. And so I used to work with him. That's how I met him. I met him through work. I was working at the place first, yeah. And then he came to like get a job or whatever. And I remember that's the day that he invited me to his house. And he was like, "Oh yeah, everyone's coming around. You should come." I said, "Come," because I've seen him around before at parties and stuff, and he's older than me. So I'm like, "Come, I'm gonna come to this little shindig." Why did I get there? And it's just me and him. I remember that day so clearly because I think we played blackjack and he taught me how to smoke from a bong, but like a water bottle bong. He literally he got a water bottle, he poked a hole in it, left some water in the bottom, and then showed me how to do it. And so yeah, this is why he's called Sensei, because he just showed me how to do bare little things. Okay, some little like smoking from a bong, and then some big like he was the person who introduced me to Canva, and I started doing some graphic design for the place that I worked, but also his little not his little, let me not be rude, but his side hustle project. And so this is where these men have such big egos, fam, because him as well as my boss felt like they made me because they showed me these things, and it's like, nah, you just gave me something and I made of it what I needed to. But yeah, I wanted to he reminds me of my dad as well, because my dad is very stingy when it comes to me. Yeah, oh please, if you know my dad, don't take it out on him. He's a precious, he's heartbroken. Okay, but my dad's very stingy when it comes to giving to me, but very quick to take. And so like when he dropped me to uni, I was like 21. My dad barely gave me anything over uni. Even when I needed something and I called him, like he would air me, or he would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna call you back," and never call me back. And so like that. But when he dropped me, he told me that I should save money to pay for a house deposit for him and his wife. And I was just like, even at the time when he said it, I was thinking, "Are you joking me?" But I just said, "Okay." And I remember that's when I started hustling. I started doing I started doing better stuff, just trying to get my money up. But going back to the Sensei lover, he used to do things like, "Oh, if you're not bringing a bottle, don't come to my house." And I'll be like I didn't think of it like, "Oh, wow, what? Excuse me?" Because now I'm like, "Oh, you're a tramp. What are you talking about? Do I look like you're a bartender?" But at the time, I'm like, cool. So I'll go buy like a £9 bottle of Captain Morgan's. Remember, I worked and I was looking after myself, so I just did it. And he even though he would ask me to bring stuff, or he would do this or he would do that, he still felt like he was the man and in control, and he needs to put me on, and let me teach you something now, I'm gonna show you something. Even sometimes the way in which we was doing the do, I put this on 18 plus so that I could actually like speak, yeah. Like, he would be playing with me or something, but he's doing it like it's a tutorial, like, oh, let me show you how I pleasure you. And I'm like, this is all right. I'm like, but again, I had this thing where I didn't want to bruise. I know how sensitive a man's ego is because of my dad, and so I never wanted to bruise it. So I'm like, oh, you work your thing, man. You did the job. But yeah, just people pleasing, honestly. And I used to do it willingly. Now that this is why I needed to talk about this stuff again, because now that I'm actually speaking about it, I'm like, damn. People was literally asking me to jump, and I was jumping and saying, am I jumping high enough? Which is kind of mad. So that was him. And he what had happened in that situation was, I remember me and my friends used to go there because they used to hold house parties, games nights, all of that stuff. And one day we went, and he's upstairs. So I'm like, rah, where's Sensei? And obviously I didn't call him, I called him by his actual name. But I'm like, where's Sensei? And they're like, oh, he's sleeping, he's taking a nap. But we can hear like people walking around and things being dropped and stuff like that upstairs. So I'm like, okay, why are you guys lying? Bearing in mind, I'm very much like, I know that's not my man. So yeah, just tell me the truth. So cool. He's come downstairs. No, that's not even how it happened actually, because he was upstairs already and I said, where is he? And they said he's taking a nap. Then he came downstairs, said hello to everyone, then said, oh, I'm going upstairs to take a nap. But before he's gone back upstairs, he's opened the front door and he's let someone in. So obviously I've heard, and me and my intuition, I'm like, oh, sir, I didn't even know he was like dating other people, seeing other people. Cool. I ain't taking it to chest because again, he's not my man. But what had happened was we continued playing our games and our games night, and then one of his friends who like I was friends with. So let me say, there was 3 people who lived in that house there. I used to go to the top floor, and the other 2 live on the here and here. This one, he asked me to chill with him once, and I went there, and I think he tried to pinch me, and I said, yeah, bye. I went upstairs. I was like, bro, tell your friend it's not that kind of party. And then the other guy that lived downstairs, he was just hilarious. Like, I don't even know if he was into me or whatever, but like, if I remember there was one day I was too drunk upstairs, and since he was like, just Ebony, you just get out of here, because I was doing the most, that I was dancing, I was doing this. I think I was dancing on the floor and I gave myself carpet burn on my knee. So I crawled downstairs and I was there complaining about my knees. It was hilarious. But cool. So this guy who I'm friends with, who we're always bantering and da 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 da. Obviously he does security as well, so I used to see him at the motors. Anyway, cool. He's like, oh, I think our other friend here likes you. So they kind of ushered me that way, and he was cute. I'm not gonna lie, he was cuter than Sensei. So I went back with him. Whatever happened, and the next morning I went home. The tantrum that this guy threw, yeah, was a mad thing. So I didn't even say to you guys, before that happened between me and his friend, I got someone a job where we work, and then he started fucking her. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's how you want to play it. Calm. So whatever's happened between me and this other friend now, and then we've come to work, and he's doing, he's like, he's in his feelings about it. He's trying not to show me, but he's doing like dumb things, like I'm cooking, I'm preparing a meal or something, and he'll come over and slap my bum and be like, but you know what, I'm not giving you none, because yeah, I don't really do that. Like, I don't like people who like are associated with my circle. And I'm just looking at him like, okay. Like honestly, I don't know if he wanted me to feel shame, but I never felt shame in that situation. I was just more laughing at him because when you did it, I didn't say anything, and I have to work with this girl, and we're friends on top of that. When I did whatever I had to do, now you're upset. So cool. Left it at that. But even after that, with that, oh, I'm not giving you none, it was him trying to be in that sensei position again. And then, yeah, I don't really play that ego battle with men. So he kind of clocked he was losing, then ended up inviting me around again over the summer. But it just got a bit mad. Me and my friend went there together, and she was just like there. No, me and my friend went there together and was chilling. Then she left because she had her own appointment, and then I obviously chilling with him, whatever's going on, and she's come back because her appointment was very like disappointing. And then from there, it was just a mad thing. Honestly, that day, if I wasn't so like, I'm not doing this with you guys, he would have convinced her to let us have a threesome because I started clocking. She was sitting on the floor. Wow, we're under the blanket, yeah. And then obviously we've kind of stopped now, and she's just sitting there, and these two are having a conversation. I'm like, I'm gonna excuse myself right now because this is mad uncomfortable. So I've excused myself, but they thought I went to the bathroom. I'm sitting outside the door and I can hear them, and yeah, it was just mad. So by the time I came back in, I'm just like, I'm not in the mood. I'm going to sleep. We all slept in the bed, and then yeah, crazy stuff. But yeah, the whole point of me bringing that up and the way in which I went into relationships was this guy literally demanding everything from me, from bring the drink to like my body to this to that, feeling like he needs to guide me in some way because he's a man and I'm a woman, and me kind of being like, I don't need your guidance, but thanks. um okay, that's where I am now. At the time, obviously, I wasn't in that space. And I know now it's because I was raised in this very, like, men should guide women. And so when he took this teacher stance in my life, I was like, okay, show me what it is that you're trying to show me. Because clearly you think you can assist me in some kind of way. And now, I remember, when was it? I don't remember when. But he messaged me to ask me if I could be on his team. And I was like, no, babe, too busy. Got my own stuff going on. Like, I ain't finna be nobody's assistant. Well, I'm gonna move this back because of the sun. Cool. Next, so we're gonna skip forward a little bit because the last guy that I'm gonna speak about actually came straight after this one. But this is like we'll get to that one when we get to it. So I'm gonna skip over that situation and go into another one. So I met this guy. How did I meet him? At a house party that the sensei threw because he was high on edibles. He was outside scratching his nipple like this, saying, "Oh, my nipple's bare itchy." Meanwhile, yeah, beef is going on. Like, everything's popping off here. No matter I'm running that way to chase somebody, girls are screaming, doing what's going on? And this clown is just standing there like, oh my god, my nipple's itching. So obviously I'm chatting to him because in that kind of chaos, yeah, I'm calm in it. I'm like, I'm safe, I'm protected. Ain't nobody finna touch me. I ain't do nothing to nobody. And I've got that kind of stare where even if you're on a mad thing, yeah, and you come in my face, I'm like, excuse me. You turn around on it, like, you won't stop what you're doing, but you'll just know, okay, don't bother this spirit here. Somehow that's the authority that I've luckily been blessed with, and I think it's just because I grew around that stuff, so it's not exciting to me, it's not scary to me, it's not any of that stuff. But cool, my man's standing and scratching his nipple and that, and I'm like, you're not a serious guy, you know, like, aren't those your friends? Like, what's going on? And this is how we met. And then we were friends at first. So the guy that I said I'm going to speak about later, there was a day when okay. All these are in like one big extended group, yeah? And so one of my friends is into them, into one of them, and I've gone to speak to him for her because I'm the one with the chest. Calm. So we've seen him one day, and the guy that I'm friends with that was crashing his nipple. What are we gonna call him? That's not gonna bait out who he is. We're gonna call him the Congo Bongo. Okay? Cool. So cool. We've seen Congo Bongo and his friend that my friend likes, who's also a Congo Bongo, yeah. And then we've invited them to mine after work. Just to chill. The sun's out. Like, I live on the street where we can just do whatever we need to do with it. I've got home and I've gone in the shower, and by the time I've come out, there's man them in my yard. There's 4 of them. There's Congo Bongo, another Congo Bongo who's an idiot, and then some other guy, yeah, who actually went to like a primary school near me. But cool, I know most of them, innit? Except from the idiot. I've seen him around before, but the reason why I'm calling him an idiot is because I went in the shower. Sorry, I'm going into so much detail and getting distracted. But I went in the shower and I've come out, and the way that my house was set up, the bathroom is at the back, the kitchen, then you come through the living room, and then you get to my room. So I've come out of the bathroom, come through the kitchen, I got to the living room, and there's bare people in the yard. I'm like, okay, there's not bare. There's like 3 men in the yard. And I'm like, hey, guys, please exit outside, because this was not an inside party. I need to get ready. There's other girls that live here upstairs. Like, I don't want them coming downstairs and you lot are just here, whatever. Like, you didn't get invited to Cochin. So, calm. Most of them are everyone's left except from one, and it's the one that I keep calling an idiot because he's arguing with me about being in my house while I'm in my towel, and I'm like, I can see you looking at me up and down, get out my yard, innit? And they're like, oh my god, what's going on? Tell him to calm down. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna calm down, fam, because why the fuck is he looking at me like that when he's in my yard? Da-da-da-da-da. Obviously I'm going off now that I'm thinking about it. I'm so much calmer now. Like, now I'll just be like, but cool. I'm like, no, so I've gone to get changed. By the time I've finished creaming my skin and I come out of my house, there's like 3 or 4 cars and there's like 20 man them. Some are sitting on the wall, some are across the road over there, some are over there. My neighbours across there, these guys that live across the road from me, yeah. And they're like, what did they say? They was like, oh my god, why are all the locals here? Because there was Cov locals. They was like, why are all the locals here? Oh my god, Ebony, we're scared. Like, can you tell them to go? Da, 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 da. So I'm like, calm. I get it, innit? Because there was a motive a couple of days before where I met the guy that I'm going to speak about last. But there was a motive a couple of days before, and apparently they was robbing all the students. I'm not even going to say apparently. Some of the locals was robbing all the students, and so obviously they're kind of shook. They're like, why are they on our road now? Da, 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 da. So I'm like, calm, let me sort this out. And I'm like, guys, what are we gonna do? Because you can't just all be here on my road. Like, I didn't invite everybody. I didn't even know everybody. I knew enough. Like, I knew the main people in each group. I don't know who made the call to be like, oh, we're all going to this road, but that's how they move, innit? Like, that's why you can't date a road man, because anything that, it's not just you and him in that relationship, it's you and this god. And I don't have the time, the patience, the nothing for any of that, because yeah, nonsensical. Even when it is just one-on-one with you and that guy, like, he's gonna be very influenced by the group because they move like in one unit. Like, they don't like individualism. They'll all wear the same one black tracksuit and that will be it, innit? So yeah, they're all on my road, blah blah blah, and then I've had to get rid of them. And the guy, the Congo Bongo, yeah, he's put something in my bin and he's like, yo, I'm gonna come and get it later, innit? So I'm not calm. Like, again, in my head, nothing said to me, say no. You can say no to this. Because he just said, raw, I'm going to do this, I'm not calm. Because I know, again, I'm safe, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm minding my business, so I'm not checking what it is, even though I have a clue. yeah, I was very passive. But I'm like calm. So he's left it there. They've all left. I don't remember what I ended up doing that day. I think me and my girls just went somewhere. I don't know. But he's come to get it back later, and we've chilled, we've smoked, and this is where our friendship started. And so there was a day, maybe a couple of weeks after that, where he's come to my house. I used to leave my door open as well because I was brave. I was in the ends, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Ebony. Nothing's gonna happen to me. And luckily, nothing did, didn't it? But he's come to my yard one day at like 4 in the morning and woken me up, and we did the do for like, I remember it was like 2 minutes, man. Because I remember waking up and being like, who is in my yard? I remember the reason why he came to my house is because he owed me money for some insurance that I paid for him because he only had cash and da 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 da. I didn't know that was his scam and scheme, innit? So he's come to my yard to give me the cash. He's woken me up. He's kind of, I don't know how, but he's aroused me. Maybe he just I don't remember the full details because I just woke up. But I remember waking up and he's there. And then we started and it was like immediately over. And then I just remember waking up next to him. Cool. Remember he came to give me some money that he owed me. I've moved back to London for the summer and then I've come back. By the time I've come back, I've forgotten about him and this bread. So by the time I've seen him again, I'm like, oh yeah, you owe me bread. And it was like £64, yeah. But when I seen him, he's like, how much I owe you? I've texted him, I'm like, you owe me 100, innit? He's like, calm. I can't give you 100 right now, I can give you 80. So he's giving me 80, I'll put it in my shoe. I remember that. No, he took it out of his shoe and I'll put it in my house. Sorry, that's funny. So he's giving me 80, and obviously I'm like win-win in it. Like he didn't even imagine if he did owe me 100, he would have still been indebted to me. But it's calm. My friend has taken a little bit of a liking to him, but she's not telling me that. So calm. I don't know what's going on between them. All I know is that was my nigga from the year before when I was doing this and doing that. And then ooh, how did I skip? Because I met him at the end of first year. At the start of second year, on the first day that I moved in, he came to my yard, yeah, smoked, fried out his brain, fell asleep on the sofa. So me and my friend have gone shopping to do what we need to do for our yard, and we've come back and my man still conked on the sofa. We had to kick him out. So yeah, I think that's when I seen him. Then he's gone missing, and then it's the year after when I moved back to Cov that, yeah, it was, because that September to December I was in Cov. Then I moved back to London, January 2020, and then I moved back to Cov August 2020. But so August 2020 I bumped into him again. He's giving me the £80. He's got a girl, yeah, but he's messy in it. But we weren't, other than that one time that we had sex way before that was bro. So he will sleep at my house, but he'll sleep like at the end of my bed. And then I don't remember when things changed, but there was one day specifically that we did the do again and I was calm. Oh no, even before that, I was working at the time, 6 days a week at uni. And obviously this is just after my dad has told me to save for his house deposit. So I've started jugging basically with this guy, which is why he's at my house so much, because we're doing jobs. The man am bringing whatever to my house for me to work with. Cool. My friend has started moving mad, as in the girl that I live with, and it took me years to put together, oh, the reason why I came home one day and he was already in my house is because they was doing things that modern friends do. Calm. So he's got arrested. I remember we've kind of, all three of us, I've kind of clocked, yeah. So he's sitting in my room, bagging up. And then gone next door to kind of approach her. No, I've approached him first and he's kind of like got mad a little bit. So I've gone to her and I'm like, "Raw, show me the role. Like, was something going on between you two? Because he's moving mad when I just said something." And she's like, "No, nothing like that." So I'm like, "Cool." Gone back to him in the room. He don't want to talk about this. And this is a big like trait of narcissists in terms of when they're in the wrong, everything's your fault, they're defensive and they'll rather make a scene and then blow out. So he's made a scene and he's blown out, yeah. He's picked up Pebs, but he's dropped some, so I've had to put them away, whatever. He's clearly in this erratic mood because he's been found out about something that he doesn't need to be that mad over anyway because he's not my man. You've kind of started fucking me as you're leaving your ex-girl and she's messaging me. Like, the whole thing was messy. I used to really allow myself to be in situations like that and I just don't anymore. But, he's left and he's got bagged. So feds have ended up like pulling him over at the petrol station. He's had to throw the pubs out, but they've caught him. And he's got arrested. So he's come back to the yard the next day. I know that guy wrote statements because as soon as, I don't know how they let him out. The car was registered in my name, and he didn't have insurance. So there was that. Bear the man's traps and stuff started getting raided after, and one of the guys that I was doing work with through him went jail not too long after, and he was on a suspended sentence. So I feel like Congo Bongo snitch, but again, none of my business. Cool. That situation, yeah, this guy was so like my dad in terms of he had a daughter. He was 4 years older than me and I was 22. 21 turning 22. He had a daughter and he would only kind of look after his daughter. Like, he would bring her around or speak about her as if she was like a puppy or something. Like, "Oh my God, come look at my puppy. Do you want to play with my puppy?" Especially because I love children, innit? So it's kind of like, I would have to reach out to his sister and be like, "Rah, bring his daughter here because she's in the city to see him and he's over here. What's that all about?" So he would kind of wake up and we're in the kitchen making cupcakes. Like, I wasn't trying to be anybody's stepmom because, again, I'm just a uni student. But I like children and I wanted him to do that. Because we was friends, like, I always want the best for people around me and I want them to do what's best and all of those things. So I kind of made it my responsibility. And it's funny because there's a lady that used to date my dad and she was me in that situation. In terms of, like, she reached out years later with a picture of me when I was younger and she was like, "Oh my God, I remember like looking after you when we used to do this and when we used to do that." And I'm like, "Raw, like, how come all these women have these memories of, oh my God, Ebony was such an amazing child?" And I just don't, it's not that I don't remember them, but it's that I remember moving around a lot. Like, my dad used to stay with women and this and that. And that's what this guy was doing. And so, like, he didn't have no money. He didn't have a job. He didn't have nothing. He connected me to the guys that I was doing my illegal activities with. And so everything that I did, he would take a cut of. And I didn't feel any way about it. Not because I'm a dickhead, because I'm not a dickhead, but because I have a kind heart. And I'm like, do you know what? This guy has no means of taking care of himself or his daughter. So why would I, like, why shouldn't I help? It's dumb because it's not my responsibility. Now I can see that in it. But at the time, that's where I was. And so I was giving him money, paying for this, paying for that. But also he was robbing me blind. So I remember one day he went out, because he used to go out at night and I like to sleep. So I'll be sleeping and he can come in when he wants. And his cousins called me and he's like, "Yo, Ebony, you know me and Congo Bongo just are like getting food and he's got your card to pay with." So I'm like, "What?" I'm looking in my cupboard. I'm looking in my drawer where I keep my card. I'm like, "My card's not there." Calm. I don't even remember if I said anything to him because I don't think I knew what to do. This guy would take my card out and spend money. I remember around Christmas Eve, because I was going to Dubai. I think I had like £500 in my account before some money was gonna land from a job I did, yeah. And this guy, I went to go get my hair done with someone that he recommended, who he calls his cousin, but from the way you interact, I know that that's not your cousin. Anyway, why is he using my card to buy bottles and bottles and bottles and this and do that? And oh, don't worry, I'm going to give it back to you. Don't worry, I'm going to give it back to you. Don't worry, I'm going to give it back to you. Did he give it back to me? No. So, and I needed to pay like some money towards my flights and stuff to go to Dubai. It was just a mess. Like, honestly, that whole situation, he ended up giving me mids and like I say cheating in quotations because, again, he wasn't actually my man. He asked me to be his girlfriend and I said no, because I was strong enough to be like, you could never be my partner, but I wasn't strong enough to be like, you shouldn't even be around me. So I'm like, no, don't worry, like, we can, you're still my friend. And so that situation was a lot, but literally he started seeing this girl, not even seeing her, but seeing her, and she was younger than me, and she had chest. I'll give it to her, because it was Ramadan and we was fasting, and I wasn't a Muslim at this time, but obviously I grew up around Muslim family. I fasted before all of these things. So I said, I'll support you fasting. I've ordered food for some girl for us to break our fast with. I've broken my fast with it. And then he's come and picked up the food and taken it to go eat with this girl. So by the time she's phoning his phone and he's sleeping, and she keeps phoning, keeps texting, and I've answered, or I've texted her, or she's pre my Instagram, and so I think I messaged her on Instagram. I'm like, what? Why are you preying me, and what do you want with him? And she's like, oh, you need to check yourself before you come and talk to me like that. And thanks for the food, by the way. Like, I was just sitting there like, there's no way. Because remember, I used to be a hothead. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's sleeping. I'm like, what? She's talking to me? I'm like, no. Even now, my head is spinning because I'm like, how did I even let this move, Anyway, cool. Yeah, he did all of that. And then, yeah, when the mids thing happened, that's when I realized I'm with someone who's careless, because I'm like, I get checked after everyone that I sleep with. And he's like, oh, bearing in mind we're in May. He's like, oh, I think I got checked like last summer. I'm like, what do you mean? He did not apologize. Like, and that was the second time that someone had done that to me and not said sorry, because they gave me false pretenses. I was under false pretenses in terms of, we are our only partner. Like, I'm only with you and you're only with me. And then finding out that you're not, because I've gone to check myself routinely, found out something's there, and then you don't even know where it's come from or where it's gone, all of those things. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. But yeah, that kind of happened. And then, worst thing is, I did not leave. I didn't, I'll be honest. Well, I didn't kick him out because he was staying with me, but I was going back and forth to London more because I just needed my own space. Again, this is a guy. Oh, we had a big argument actually, because he found messages of me mocking him to my roommate, my flatmate. And I'm not being funny. Like, I know I should have left, and in that position, it is me seeing raw. I was hurt because he wouldn't give me the respect that I deserved. And so what I did was I laughed at him while he was laying in my bed and coming back and forth to me. I'm there like, bro, I literally pay for this guy's living. Like, I was in my ego in that sense. And so I got very depressed, I remember, and I was just in a dark space. And then one day I decided to do my hair and my makeup, and his friend came to pick him up. And even that friend, yeah, sometimes I want to message him and be like, you know, all those years that he was well, all those months that he was paying for your insurance and saying, and you was giving him back the cash, he didn't give me my money back. But I can't like go and demand that money from him now because he paid the money for his insurance. It's just that it came out of my pocket. And so somebody got to drive just off my bank. Anyway, but anyway, we've gone for this drive. And the guy that I keep on saying I'm going to speak about last, we've seen him. So I'm in the back of this car and it's tinted. And I've seen him come out of the court. And I'm like, no way. Because that's like my favourite person in it. So I'm like, no way. Like, I'm so glad I look good today. Da, 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 da. So they're chatting to him through the window. He doesn't know I'm in the back. And they're like, oh, we're gonna circle around. He's like, oh yeah, we're going Nando's. I said, calm, Nando's, yeah. I've texted my friend, I'm like, sis, meet me in town. I've come out the car with them and they're like, oh, obviously the guy that I'm chatting to, he's like, oh, where you going? Da, da, da. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna meet Jemima. Jemima knows the situation of what's going on between me and Congo Bongo, and she knows the love that I have for the other one. I don't even know what name to give him because I can't call him that. Everyone will know. We're gonna call him Peter Pan. Cool. So she knows the friendship that I have with Peter Pan and the long-standing love, like regardless of what's going on between us. So I phoned her and she's met me in town. But even before she's met me, like I've gone into Nandino's to say hello or whatever, and we've just had like a 2-second catch up and he's asked me if I'm alright. And I'm like, I don't know, like my life is kind of weird right now. And he's like, why, what's wrong? Da-da-da, give me a number. Da-da-da. So I gave him my number. And from there, I was kind of like, do you know what? Why am I even in this situation? Like, this guy's ass to me. He was just horrible. And the worst thing is, Peter Pan warned me about Congo Bongo before I went in there. So there was when me and Congo Bongo first started getting close, I went to an AP with Peter Pan. And he heard Congo Bongo phone me. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of busy right now. Like, I'll chat to you later, innit? And then he was like, oh, was that Congo Bongo? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, be careful. He's a liar, you know? And I'm like, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. And I did think I knew what I was doing because when you tell me someone's a liar, I'm like, yeah, calm. Like, I'm used to that because my father. And so, I didn't really take the warning. But, cool. So I've seen Peter Pan. I've decided that this is not for me, and I've moved back to London. And then I've decided I'm gonna stop doing I've decided, like, I've just cut away from all of that stuff and trying to figure out my own life, realizing I've fallen and I gotta pick myself up. And so that's when I really started getting into Islam properly, going around my own family and just feeling like lost. I don't even know what to say about that. But yeah, I was going to drop out of uni as well, and everyone told me not to. And then I think my course was going to be available online, but then they said that we had to do it in person. So 6 days before I had to start uni, I moved back to Cove, found a room, patterned it. Excuse me. At the end of the situationship with Congo Bongo, before I moved back to London, obviously I had bare Mali friends now because that's who I was jogging with. And there was one in particular who I didn't know that well, but I'd seen him around, and I would say hello and and we're gonna call him Shocker. So we're gonna call him Shocker. Shock factor. But yeah, I think I'm still shocked. I don't know. It's my ego, yeah. Something in me was gassed I was dating Amali, but cool, whatever. I started picking up from him when I moved back to Cove. And I remember the day this happened because what he started doing was I'll phone him to pick up and he'll be like, oh, can I come to you last so that we can chill? And I'm like, cool, calm. So one day he's come to drop loud to me, and then he's like, oh, can I come back when I'm done? And I'm like, okay, why not? And then I remember I was dancing that day, and in my spirit I said, Ebony, when he comes back, Tell him I'm tired. Cool. He comes back. Did I say that I was tired? What did I say? Come inside, come inside. So we're chilling, smoking, whatever. I think I was braiding my hair. So it was up till like 5, 6 in the morning, me braiding, both of us smoking, just chatting, laughing, listening to music. Da, 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 da. I don't know if that's the day that we kissed, but like I liked him and he was cute. And again, remember, I'm in this space of feeling lost. So that's very important because he was a very big influence on me in terms of Islam. He really wanted me to find that for myself and love it for myself. And so he kind of, he was one of those guys that had a lot of rules. Not that he would ever follow them. And he moved into my space, but he imposed a lot of rules. And so he was living with me, but it was like I was living with him. Like, I don't know how to describe this one to anybody, because even with me dancing and needing to do that to sustain my spirit, I couldn't do that. I couldn't play the music that I wanted to hear. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. I had to cook. Like, if I didn't cook, I was in trouble. And I didn't like it. I used to cry a lot, and not in front of him. I would go to the kitchen, like, while I'm cooking, I'm crying. I'll go to the bathroom and cry silently, or just have another shower so I can cry. Like, it was very, very abusive emotionally, sometimes physically. So there was a situation where, and I know the reason why I was so forgiving of this is because I wasn't aware of it, and I couldn't even believe it. But he was busting shots from my house, yeah. And so he'll go downstairs to meet them, and I will fall asleep like in 2 seconds because I need sleep, like, naturally. So you got me up these late hours. I got uni, I got volunteering, I got all this stuff that I'm doing. And I remember one day he went downstairs, and by the time he's come up, I'm conked. I remember I'm smoking as well, so I'm conked, but you're not waking me up. He's bust the door, yeah. And I didn't know this because I was still conked. He's bust the door, he's dragged me out my bed, and he's done me something in it while I'm sleeping. And I wasn't aware. So the next day, I've woken up here. Sorry, the stress is in my body. The next day, he's woken me up, yeah. And no, I've woken up, yeah. And I'm like, morning. Like, just me, sunshine, the way that I am. I'm like, morning. And he's just like, ugh. And I'm like, whoa, somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So I brushed my teeth and da-da-da. I remember I've come back to the bed, and I think I've tried to hug him or something. And he's like, why are you touching me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, what? Like, what's going on today? And he's like, don't pretend you don't know what happened. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, are you being serious? And I'm like, what? Like, I'm genuinely baffed. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't even remember that he left and I fell asleep. As far as I'm concerned, we was chilling last night. I fell asleep. I woke up and you're mad at me. So he's like, no, you did it again. You fell asleep when I went downstairs. Da, 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 da. I had to bust the door in. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. Like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, seriously? I dragged you out of the bed and I was like shaking you and stuff. And I'm like, you did all of that? Like, I don't remember any of it. And he's like, nah, that's not normal, man. And he was kind of laughing, and I was laughing too, because I'm like, how did all of that happen and I didn't feel anything? Nothing in my head screamed, Ebony, abuse. Did you hear what he said he did? Nothing. And so I stayed, that happened in November, and I only officially left that relationship like August. So, cool. That behavior was replicated when Ramadan came around in April. I was volunteering on 3 huge projects and a few small ones. Obviously doing my own business stuff. At uni in my 3rd year doing my dissertation and revising for my exams. And in this domestic violence relationship where if I don't cook for Ramadan or if I don't cook enough food, I'm getting shouted at, I'm getting stuff thrown at me. It was very abusive. It was very toxic. And he was like an arse wipe to his friends as well. Like, he liked to put people down, and that was something that I've recognized is in my dad as well. In terms of, I was chilling with my dad and his friends in March, and he just kept on shitting on one of them, and every time he said something that would kind of put him down, I'm like, don't worry about that, him. And then by that, my dad just got annoyed. Like, he was random, everybody's chilling, having a good time, I'm even smoking with them, yeah. And my dad's like, oh, sorry guys, like, you know, when your daughters are older, you'll understand that you have spent time with them as well. And I'm like, am I ruining the vibe or something? Like, did I do something wrong? Nobody had a problem with me being there, except from him. And then he started like going on this rant with me. One friend left, and the other friend left, and then I was just, that's what made me really deep. Like, why is this guy being so toxic? Why is he being so negative? Why is he telling me that I need to remember how to dress and all of these things? It was just a mad thing. And obviously his friends are not going to know that when I opened up about my abuse to my dad that his friend did, he told me it was my fault. So you trying to tell me how to dress is, again, you projecting the fact that you weren't there to protect me, and now you feel like you need to impose rules on me so that you can feel good about yourself. But yeah, back to Shaka. That relationship was just a lot because, again, I let him give me all of these roles of a woman that's supposed to be this and a woman's supposed to be that. And me, I don't know what it is, yeah. At first, I thought it was just my environment. But remember, I was born into and grew around this environment. Then I thought it was just like, I thought something was wrong with me because I'm very gully. And I don't mean gullible. I used to be gullible because even though I'm very gully, I have a very high level of understanding of people, of emotions, and of all of that stuff. And so I'm able to hold space, especially for people who don't normally have a space held for them because they get judged, because of things that they might have done, because of this and because of that. And so I I forgot what I was saying now. But oh my god, I proper forgot what I was saying. I was saying that I'm able to hold space for these people. Oh, about me being like, I've got a lot of masculinity in my chart. And so for these men, they didn't like it. And so I felt like there was something wrong with me because I'm very outspoken, because I stand up for what I believe in, because, and I'm not saying what's right, because each of us has a different perspective of what's right or wrong, but I stand up for what I believe in, and because I will hold you accountable. So I remember with Shocker, yeah, one time he came to my house and he's got a bandage on his hand, yeah, and I think something was broken on the bike that he rides, that I would ride sometimes. And so I'm obviously going to put two and two together of who you are, of what you do, what kind of environment and lifestyle you're in, as to why your hand is broken. So I'm like, what happened to your hand? He's like, oh, I fell off my bike. Like, how many years have you been riding a pedal bike? You really expect me to believe that you fell off your bike? He's like, oh no, I did. I said, who did you fight? And he's laughing. He's like, I didn't fight nobody. I fell off my bike. You know, it took him weeks to be like, oh, how did you know that? How did you know I had a fight? How did you know I had a fight? I'm like, it's not impossible to put those things together. So he didn't really like that about me either, which is why he thinks I'm a witch, because I would just know things, and it was just me using common sense or reading the signs. And yeah, that relationship is kind of what led me to being essentially homeless, because I stayed with him while I was volunteering and finishing uni. When I finished uni, I needed to move, and I didn't have the funds to do so. And where I was volunteering, they kept selling me dreams, saying they was going to give me a paid job. And so we moved together to my next space, even though it was just my name on it because I'm the student and blah, blah, blah. So we moved there, and I only had that space for 2 months, and it was within that 2 months that I was just like, I can't do this with you anymore. But also, like, I'd come back into contact with Peter Pan, and whenever I bump into this Peter Pan character, yeah, I'm like, I deserve more. I deserve to be treated better than this. I deserve all. And it was just because of the friendship that we had, like, and when I say the friendship that we had, we don't always speak. We don't, because even now, that relationship didn't go how I thought it was going either. And I'm like, why did I always call him my best friend? And it's like, because we actually took the time to ask each other how we are and really listen. Like, even when I would say to him, oh, I'm okay, or he would say to me, he's okay, and I know you're not, I'm like, how are you actually doing? And having that was new. It was very rare, and it was something that I really cherished. And so, yeah, I bumped into him again, and I'm like, I need to get out of this, man. But also, actually, we'll get into that when I do the feminine one, which I think I'm gonna do on another day because I've already been on live for an hour and a bit. But we're gonna speak about Peter Pan now. And so Peter Pan is someone that I would say I had more of a spiritual connection with than anybody else I've ever met in my life, because like I would see him in my dreams before and after I met him. I have this like familiarity with his energy, and now I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm looking at my own past relationships but also my mum's and how she engaged with them and what happened. And so there was a guy who was like him that she dated. Well, I don't know if he was actually like him. I would hope to think that Peter Pan is wiser than that guy, but he ended up, when I was 5, he got killed. He got robbed for his watch and he fought back and they beat him to death with a pole. And so in this situation, Peter Pan got shot and he didn't die. And so I I understand now how the grief that my mum would have felt when I was 5 and that happened to Akeem, how I didn't want to feel that, and I felt like I got saved from that. And so I thought that meant that we were supposed to be together, because again, even the night that it happened, things were going weird in my world. Like, my friend was arguing with me over leaving a party, and I only went to this party because I said Peter Pan's gonna phone me. As soon as he phones me, I'm gone. Like, I don't want to be here. I think I was even a little bit ill. And we ended up having an argument, and she dashed a tissue roll at me, but it hit me directly in my eye. Like, so my eye was stinging. Like, there was just so many things going on that day, and I was just like, what on earth is this? Then obviously the next day I find out that he's been shot, and it was kind of mad. And then after that, I think I started seeing him more as, obviously I saw him as a person anyway, but it was less of like the situation and more of, I think because of that, I had a fear of losing him. And so even when he did upset me, I was less likely to say something because I had this fear of losing him. And there was many red flags in the beginning. So when I first met him, yeah, obviously I seen him in a shop, then I met him at a party the next day, and I've gone up to him and I told him I like his face. I told you when I like something, I just go for it. So I told him I liked his face. And then we've gone to the back of the party and we've had a conversation, exchanged socials and numbers. Da, 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 da. The next time I hear from him, I think, no. We texted like a little bit, but I ain't really a texter anyway. And then that day when all the locals was on my road, he was there. And one day I was at work and I had 2 missed calls from him, and I didn't really have good service there. So I remember I went out to the back here and I phoned him back, and he's like, oh, I'm with my ex right now. And I'm like, okay. Bearing in mind, I just met this guy. He's like, I'm with my ex right now. Did I fuck you? Oh, sorry, my language. But anyway, he's like, did I F you? And I was like, no. And he's like, did I kiss you? And I was like, no. And he's like, did I touch you? And I was like, no. Obviously, I said no, but I kind of lied for him, because when I was at the party and we were speaking, like, he had his hand around my waist, but I just said cool, whatever, because I don't like mix up, and that's a terrible thing in me as well, in terms of doing things just to keep the peace instead of exposing the truth. And I'm working on that now, just for my own peace of mind. So yeah, I lied for him that day, and then he kind of hung up, and that was it. I didn't hear from him again until summer when I was back in London, and he was kind of like DMing me. And then I went to go see him, and from there I just kind of like fell in love. But it was because when I spent time with him, everything else in my world like stood still, and I felt like I needed that. Especially because my world was always like quite hectic. It was never stable. There was always something going on. Um, and so having that kind of connection with someone, it meant a lot to me. And so I remember between that first time that I spent time with him and the next August, September, October, November, 4 months he'd been shot. And then the month after that, I had to move back to London because I couldn't pay my rent. I got student loan. I got my maintenance loan to pay my rent, but all my loan did was pay my rent. And so I didn't really have any money to look after me at the time because I wasn't working full time at that time. I just started my business. And so I had to move back to London. I remember I did that. And we didn't really stay in contact. His communication was arse, man. And it was something that I always made excuses for because I understood that people couldn't say how they felt, and it was always from a space of empathy in me, but then I didn't notice that it could have been from a space of manipulation in him, in terms of we can both feel how we feel about each other, but I'm coming into this in innocence of let's figure out where this can go, and you're kind of coming into it in a what can I get from you because you like me. And I realized with narcissists, like, where I am with that whole thing is they're just people who want love but feel like they have to manipulate for it, and it comes from a space of low self-esteem because they don't think they're gonna get it just off the back of being themselves or just off the strength of asking. And I understand how I've like accounted for that in many relationships, whether it's with my dad, whether it's with Peter Pan, whether it was with anyone really. And this is why I call him Peter Pan, because it's kind of like we all have to get to the space where we grow enough to realize we're responsible for meeting our own needs. And if love is something that we need, then we have to go about that through a proper route and not through manipulation, because that's not fair to the other person. And so yeah, he was in and out of my space over the years after that. And so it was after that, after meeting him, I met him after Sensei, like straight after. And I remember even Sensei was like, oh, someone said that they saw you in the party talking to this person. I was just like, okay. And then obviously next was Congo Bongo, and I saw him before and after that. And then after that was Shocker, and I saw him during and after that. So I remember there was a day where I went to an event and he was there, and it was nice to see him. And I remember I told him I missed him or whatever. And then I went home and I felt good. And then I think like 2 days after that, Shocker called me, and then that's when he came back to my house, and that's when he started staying around more permanent. I even forgot to say that I basically tried to rob Shocker, yeah. I even tried to rob him. He used to leave money in my drawer. And this is like after 2 weeks of staying at my house, like on and off. So he used to leave money in my drawer, and my student loan was going to drop in like 3 days, but I needed to get a cab somewhere. So I took £50 out, and I would remember I was going to put it back without him knowing, but he counted it. And so by the time I've got back, he's like, "Bro, why is £50 missing?" Da, 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 da. And I was just bursting into tears because I'm like, oh my God. Oh, he didn't know as well. Like, I was going through stuff with my finances because I stopped doing illegal stuff. I need to talk about that as well. I stopped doing illegal stuff. I was volunteering, and the lady who I was working for volunteering was supposed to pay me, but she cancelled my contract, said that I was emotionally manipulating her, and then yeah, I just didn't get paid for any of the work that I did. And so I was in a tight spot, and so that's why I was like, oh, I'm just gonna borrow it and put it back. Why I didn't ask him is because I wasn't comfortable asking for help, and that was because of my dad as well. And I also didn't know how he would respond to that. So I kind of just kept it real with him. I was like, "Raw, like my student loan's coming in 3 days. I was gonna put it back. Like I just needed something." And he was like, "Oh, why didn't you ask me? Blah blah blah." And then even from there, he was like, "Calm, like I will help you with the groceries and stuff." And this is how we ended up playing house a little bit, because it ended up being like, "Raw, he will give me some money for the groceries, and then I will cook." But he would also like I was booking him bare Ubers for him, and I wasn't getting that money back. So at the end of the day, he wasn't doing as much for me as he thought he was, and what he thought he was entitled to. So when I in Islam getting attacked, why am I picking my scalp? Because this is awkward. But anyway, in Islam getting a tattoo is haram. And I remember I wanted to get a new tattoo because I already had tattoos before he met me. And I wanted to get a new one. So I just went ahead and I booked it and I did it. And then I came home and I showed him. And I'll never forget the anger. He was so mad at me. He was like, "You didn't even ask me before you did it." I'm like, "Why on earth would I ask you to get a tattoo before I got a tattoo when I have tattoos already? Like, what I do with my body isn't up to you. It's up to me." And I remember he said, "I should have left your broke ass in the hood." And that really hurt me because I was vulnerable with him and open with him in the sense that I didn't have any help. I didn't have any support. Everything I do it for myself, which is why I used to jig and stuff. And we'd had arguments about that before, in terms of like, he would ask me, "Oh, can you go bust a shot for me?" And I'll be like, "No, I don't do that stuff anymore. Like, I'm volunteering in my community, I'm working with kids, I'm trying to get them on the right path, all of these things." And he's like, "Oh, but you used to do this and this with the man, then why can't you do it for me? You don't even like me." Da, da, da. And that gaslighting and manipulation is what I had gotten used to in that situation. So he would literally guilt me into stuff. And yeah, it took me a while to even be able to say no to him. And it's weird because in these situations, all of these people knew that they could trust me, which is why they'll open up to me, which is why they'll ask me to do this, which is why they'll ask me to do that. And I think I showed up because I knew I could. And I felt like I was supposed to. Because if somebody asked me something and I can do it, why shouldn't I? That was kind of like my mindset. And it's because of the way in which I was raised, in terms of, like, I was telling my mum the other day, once when I was younger, my dad, his friend finished eating and he said, "Oh, I'll take my plate downstairs in a second." And my dad was like, "No, that's what children are for." And I remember he called one of us from upstairs to take this plate to the kitchen. And so this, like, being in service, give of yourself no matter what, was installed into me. And I'm just like noticing now how I did that. But yeah, back to Peter Pan. So we'll go to the end of my relationship with Shocker. I bumped into Peter Pan again, and he has a level of understanding that everyone else didn't. Because with Shocker, yeah, this is when I've started building my business again. I've started volunteering in my community. Obviously, I'm at uni, like, I'm going hard on myself. And he's like, "Oh, I wish I could just pay you to do nothing." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do nothing." Like, I know what you're saying might seem like sweet music to my ears, because I'm tired. I'm stressing out about what's going on and making sure this is pattern and that is pattern. But I like that. Like, it's giving me life. It's giving me something to go for. And he couldn't get that. But Peter Pan could, because he has that same fight and drive within himself. And he had come into contact with some of the people I was working with before. And so I could chat to him in terms of like how I was really feeling, and he would see that. Like, I remember we were speaking about one organization in particular, and he was like, "They're users, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yes, oh my god, why can't no one else see what I can see?" But like, that level of understanding is what always kept me close to him. And what the biggest issue was in that situation, and I'm being very careful about this, because I feel like I make a lot of excuses for him, and I'm only taking accountability for what I did and how I allowed people to play in my face. And so it's like, we knew each other already, and then I ended up meeting his family through work, and instead of forming a direct connection between each other, it's like we went through the family, because for me, I knew how much he loved his mom, and so having her approval felt like, okay, yeah, he's gonna see that we can actually do this. And then for him, like, I think maybe him loving his mom so much and wanting her approval and not feeling good enough, he was kind of like, oh, mom, I really like this girl, can you help me? But nobody told me the truth of about what I was entering, what the situation actually was. And everybody each had their own agendas, including his mom. And so I remember, I just remember so much happening, being sold dreams. Like, we had a, though it took me a while to be able to tell him that I loved him, because I wanted to make sure I meant it. I was raised in a household where my dad made us say, "Good night, daddy, love you," every single night, even after he'd beat us, even when we didn't feel it, like all of those things. And so I wanted to make sure, like, and in the past I was a prick, like I was very toxic. If someone said to me that they love me, I literally have a video where me and my friend are sitting on my bed, there's a guy sleeping there, yeah, and I'm, oh no, that was a different video. But me and my friend are sitting on my bed, and I'm literally like, he literally just said I love you, and I said I love you too, because what was I supposed to say? Like, that's how I used to be. And so when coming to tell Peter Pan that I loved him, like, I wanted to really mean it. And so I remember the day, the time, the setting, all of that stuff. We was downstairs. His mom didn't want to leave us alone, because she's like, I'm not leaving these kids alone in my living room. And then she got tired. It was getting to like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And she's like, oh, come on, Ebony, let's go upstairs. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. So she's gone and she's left us. And I've kind of gone over to him. And I was like, I couldn't say this to you like years ago. But I want you to know that I actually love you. Like, I care about you a lot. And yeah, that's what I said to him. It's so awkward. But that's what I told him. And then I remember he said sorry to me if he's ever hurt me. And he was like, oh, when do you want to get married? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't take that stuff seriously, because I'm like, oh, that's cute. But I'm like, the reality of it was always, the reality was always going to be hard, because I knew how much stuff I would have to work through within myself, but also because I'd asked someone back home to read it for me. I'm like, I really like this guy. Like, is he the right one for me? Whatever. And I remember, like, years ago, he was like, if you want to make it work with him, it's just going to take a lot of hard work. And me, I didn't run from hard work at all. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So when he said that, I was like, oh my God, like this, we can actually do this. And I hadn't shown him the fullness of who I am, because I was still learning that it was safe to be her, because so many people had told me that it wasn't, because, like, I was raised by my dad to be controlled. It's like whenever I have that freedom and I give it to myself, I feel wrong. And so I needed to step into my own energy first. But while I was doing that, I didn't know his situation and what was going on his side. And so I'm just here, like, I'm claiming him, I'm reaching out to him and communicating with him, because I don't want to go too tough into the situation and what happened, but he wasn't around. And so I just kept communicating with him to make sure he was okay. And he didn't know what I was going through either. So now it's kind of ended up that I've shown up for you and shown up for you and shown up for you, just to find out you didn't show up for me. The reason why you didn't show up for me is because you was lying to me. And instead of coming to clear that lie, you try to go through people who don't have mine or your best interests at heart, because they're thinking of themselves. And so, like, I'm in a space now where I'm aware of the way in which I go into relationships with men because of my dad. And the way in which I wouldn't speak up for myself, I wouldn't stand up for myself. I would be so understanding and put my feelings on the back burner, and realizing I can't do that anymore. And understanding that that's going to come with sacrifices. So not everything I wanted to make work might be able to work. Like, because of me being aware of my people-pleasing tendencies now, I'm starting to realize how even relationships with family members, like most of my old friends, most of them, I don't talk to anybody. So it's like everything has shifted now because I'm aware of this yes man behavior within myself that I'm no longer gonna like act out. And then I have to, this is why I'm looking at my relationships again in terms of how was I entering these situations and how did I end up in a space of having to rebuild myself and trust myself again. And it was one, going against my intuition so many times. It was two, always putting like, I would have more understanding of someone than they would have of themselves. Like with Shocker, he spoke to me about his dad and how his dad was abusive to his mom and all of these things, and to all of them in the house. And so when he would have these outbursts, I'm like, do you know what? I understand, because that's the only way in which you know how to process what you're feeling right now. But then I didn't have the backbone enough to be like, but I don't need to be your punching bag. And that's where I am now. And so yeah, this is kind of like the end of that karmic cycle in that sense. um I'm gonna end this here now just because I feel like I've discussed my relationship with men, and I focused on my dad and then how that manifested in romantic relationships. Because if I speak about how it manifested across the board, we'll be here for ages. But if you're watching this on a replay, thank you very much. Thank you for the people who joined me on the live as well. And I just hope that by me speaking up about the things that I've been through and my experiences, and even the way that I reflect on it and pick it apart, and the way I'm looking at how I show up, I hope it helps you to step into your confidence as well, because this is why I come and share it on here. Otherwise, I would do it all in my journal and in therapy, because I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing. Gotta tell the world that I was robbed, raped, and all of these things. And when I told my dad that, because at first I assigned blame, and I was like, you know, because you didn't protect me when I was growing up and I got used to that lack of protection, I put myself in situations that I didn't even know any protecting from. And he was like, well, that's your fault. And I was like, okay, well, what can I say? Because it's not his fault. But in that situation where I've kind of like been like, because you wasn't there for me, he could only he could only deflect that, project his insecurity of, like, my whole life my dad has always been like, you just want me to seem like a monster. And I'm like, no, I don't. You feel like a monster because you're not being the dad that you know you could be. But we'll leave that for another day. The next live that I'm gonna do will be about my feminine relationships. And so I'll be speaking about my relationship with my mom and how that kind of set the precedent of how I went into my female relationships. And it is a little bit worse than the men's one, because with the men's, like, I knew to some extent that I should be receiving if you are my lover, my partner, and the ways in which I was receiving, like, even the pleasure that they thought that they was giving to me, they weren't. The conversation was draining and dulling, because I like esoteric knowledge. I like ancient wisdom. I like talking about our emotions and putting things into perspective so we know how to move. Like, I like alchemy and stuff like that. And a lot of these people are not on that wave. Like, again, I'm around the ends. I'm around people who are around this stuff. And so more time the conversation is just clown stuff. And I can't even take it anymore. So yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. Again, I'll be back next time to speak about my feminine relationships and those friendships. There was a lot, and they taught me to dim my light a lot. So I'm unlearning that through these discussions, and I hope you are too.